What's going on, Chops, man? What's going on? You okay, man? You seem a little upset, man. You okay? Ho. What do you mean you're gonna go hurt somebody, kill somebody, man? You need to really rethink this situation, Chops, man. Think about what you're gonna do. I understand that, Chops, but you're gonna go home eventually. If you do something like this, they're gonna add all this time on top of the time that you already have, and you never gonna go home and see your family. That's crazy, bro. Between me and you, Chops is gonna go do a big dude in. He say he taught a big dude bullying him, man. He say he gonna go kill him, man. Yeah, you right, OG. I ain't got nothing to do with it. It ain't my fight. You know, big dude wanna keep bullying him, he gonna have to get what bullies get. Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again. Real Kens TV and the house like kitchen sinks. You know, oftentimes people ask me, they say, Real Kens. And feel free to call me Kens. They say, Real Kens, how do you come up with these stories? I mean, how do you just have all these stories in your head? That's a very interesting question, because oftentimes these stories are not just in my head. I guess essentially they are in my head, but I don't write down like storylines, like, oh, what can I talk about today or whatever. I just allow them to flow naturally. But when you've done over 10 years in the Department of Corrections, there's a story to tell for every single day that you've been in the Department of Corrections. Now, it's not always about someone getting assaulted or raped or, you know, anything of that nature, but there's always a story to tell. For instance, a friend of mine called me up. He wanted me to look one of his relatives up in the Department of Corrections and see when that individual was going up for parole. So no problem. I looked him up in the the Kentucky online offender site or what have you. And as I'm looking him up, his last name was Jones. I run across another individual that I was incarcerated with several years ago, and it's like, wow, that is crazy. So something as simple as that brings you all a story and a message today. And it's definitely a message. So y'all kick back, ride with me, relax, what have you. If you're at work, if you're on your way to work, from work, or you just riding, traveling, you need something to listen to that's legitimate, and you want to hear this action and this heat, just lay back and listen. So, as I mentioned, the last name was Jones, so I click on the picture. And I'm like, wow, Patrick Jones. Patrick Jones was an individual that I met, like I said, several years ago at the Rotary Farm. For you all that don't know, the Rotary Farm is where they send you at once you get sentenced from the county jail. They send you to the Rotary Farm. And then from the Rotary Farm, you get processed, you get classified. They do your medical work, mental evaluations, things of that nature. And then they decide which level you are. Are you maximum? Are you medium? Are you minimum? Or are you community? And from that point, they send you to your destination. Well, Patrick Jones, it was pretty obvious that he was going to be either medium or maximum. So let me take you back so that you'll understand why I say he was either going to be medium, and actually high medium, or maximum. Now, the reason that I know, I wasn't there when this actual tragic event took place, but I know because Patrick told me. At the time, he was roughly 24 years old, and his girlfriend was 20. They had a child together. The child was, young, less than a year. I don't remember exactly how many months, but the child was less than a year old. Now, they had been kind of having some difficulties or what have you, going through it or what have you. You know how it is, man. They young. Even though they was 24 and 20, they were still young. A teenage love. So, they were having problems or what have you, and she just got to the point to where she say, you know what, Patrick, I can't do this anymore. Because it had turned semi-violent. Now, when I say violent, not actually like they were laying hands on each other, but it was a whole lot of verbal confrontations, and it was loud, and then the police got involved because the neighbors were calling the police. So she filed an emergency protective order against him. He filed one against her, but they later went on to get dismissed. So that was the type of relationship. I guess in a sense it was a toxic relationship. So it was probably best that they did go ahead and move on. The problem was when she tried to move on, Patrick didn't quite understand that. He's like, what do you mean you're moving on? What do you, I mean, I love you. I mean, I understand we go through our trials and tribulations and, you know, we've had some problems, but I love you, you know, let's work it out. She had heard that one too many times, and she was just like, no, I think it's just best that I go ahead with my life and you go ahead with your life. And it came out that she had actually met an individual that she was feeling. 20 years old. So, you know, whether she was 40 years old, however old she was, that's the right that she has. They weren't married. Patrick didn't like that whatsoever. So they get to arguing and fussing or what have you. And next thing you know, she's trying to walk out of the door. Patrick's standing in front of the door like, no, please just listen, baby. Don't leave me. I love you. I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I'll do it. So they get to tussling or whatever. He's just trying to stop her from leaving out of the door. She falls. She hits her head on the, this is not a coffee table, but a nightstand. She hits her head. When she hits her head, she's out of it. Patrick says that, okay, she was out of it, but eventually she came to. He was like, listen, baby, I'm sorry. It was an accident. You know, nothing was intentional. Just lay down for a little bit, okay? Just lay down, get your thoughts together, what have you, because she was dizzy and she was kind of like in and out or what have you. So she laid down. Patrick said that a couple hours went past. He would go in there and check on her. She's in there still asleep. He's like, okay, maybe she'll come to her senses and, you know, she won't leave me. He looked up. Another couple hours went past. Another couple hours went past. He realizes, whoa, not only has she not moved, she's not breathing. 20 years old. He's 24. No criminal record whatsoever. He doesn't know what to do. He panics. He goes. He's looking at her. He goes and grabs one of his buddies. I think his buddy just happened to be at the house, or he was a roommate. It was one of the two. I can't remember exactly which one it was. But nevertheless, it was another individual that he went and grabbed. They determined, man, she's gone, man. She's no longer with us. As sad as it is, that's just what it was. He panics. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know if he calls the police, they're going to try to blame him and try to say that he did it or it was intentional. He doesn't know what to do. You know what? I'll get rid of the body. If I get rid of the body, nobody can ever blame me. Now, when he's telling me this, don't get me wrong, like I'm telling you all the story that he told me. So I'm quite sure that at this particular moment, he was emotional. Because he told me he was crying. He didn't know what to do. So he decides to get rid of the body. Well, how am I going to get rid of a body? How am I going to take this individual out of this apartment on the 3rd floor and without anyone seeing me? They come up with the wise idea. And I say that sarcastically when I say wise. They go and get a saw. And this is very, 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 very unfortunate and very, very sad. I actually contemplated even telling this story. Because that young lady has family members. And, you know, this is something that's just not... I don't know. It's just not something that's easy to tell. They saw her up. As a person that has daughters, you know, that's really like even if it was a son, even if it was anybody, that's just not something that's you want to envision in your head, in your mind. They saw her up. Put her in a suitcase. 2 suitcases. Put her in the suitcases. They throw her in the dumpster. There's 2 dumpsters outside of the apartment complex that they live in. Now think about what I just said. I know you heard me, but just think about what I just said. They saw her body into pieces, throw her into 2 separate suitcases, and take her outside and throw her into 2 separate dumpsters. Now, nobody wants to envision their kids, their loved ones, you know, being done like that. And I'm quite sure that her parents never envisioned or thought that this would happen to her. So she's thrown in the dumpster, and I want to say a day, maybe 2 days later, no more than 2 days later, Patrick was arrested. He was arrested for this heinous crime and charged with murder. He was interrogated. Police determined that he did it. I'm not sure. I believe that he confessed to it. So he was charged with murder and booked in the county jail. Now, the thing about when you're charged with a crime in the county jail, the more serious the crime, the longer you're going to actually sit in the county jail. So if it's a murder or attempted murder or it's like some violent robberies, you may be in the county jail for 2 or 3 years just fighting the case. He sits in the county jail for about 3 years. He's going through all sort of mental evaluations. His lawyer is saying that he wasn't mentally there. He wasn't all the way competent. He was, and I say this respectfully, a sandwich short of a picnic. He wasn't all the way there. So yeah, he admitted to doing this crime. He did actually do the crime, but at the same time, he didn't really realize exactly what he was doing. So they were sending him back and forth to state facilities to do the mental evaluations and things of that nature. So they came back with the determination that he wasn't all the way there as far as like mentally, but at the same time, he was competent enough to stand trial. However that works. So his lawyer, they're going back and forth with the prosecution and what have you, and they come up with a plea deal that I guess everybody could live with. Now, I'm quite sure that the parents weren't too happy about this situation. I mean, after all, this is their daughter, and you all come up with a plea deal, 30-year plea deal. 30-year plea deal at 85%, which means he has to do 85% of that time. However, in the state of Kentucky, the most time, unless you have life without, the most time that you can do in the state of Kentucky before you see the parole board is 20 years. So even if you got 50 years, 60, 70 years, you're going to see the parole board in 20 years. That's just the way that it works in Kentucky. So he took a plea deal for a 30-year sentence. He already had 3 years in the county jail, which means that he has to do another 17 years before he sees the parole board. Prosecution felt as though it was a very, not necessarily fair deal, but they didn't want to take the chance of putting him on the stands. The jury sees that he's kind of, not all the way there, what have you, and then they acquit him, and then they don't get any time, or they get something significantly less, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. So, opposed to rolling the dice, 30-year plea was on the table. He took the 30 years, and like I said, he did 3 years in the county, on to the Rotary Farm. That's where I met him. Now, we at the Rotary Farm, and people recognize him. His case was all over the news, so this wasn't a low-profile case whatsoever. So his name was Patrick Jones. Y'all can look him up. They say people make up stories, or I've had a couple people say that I've watched other prison channels and taken their stories. I don't even watch other prison channels if it's not Fleece Johnson at Hustler Spirit 502. If it's not Jay Williams, Free Jay Williams. Sometimes I watch Dante's Show Network, 16 to Life. Those Big Hurt, Fresh Out Prison series, those are the channels that I watch, but I don't really watch other channels very frequently because I'm too busy trying to get my own channel off the ground. I don't have time to be making up making up stories, and I don't have time to be taking anybody's stories. So if you don't believe me, like I said, you have his name. I should send a link, but look it up. Happened in Lexington, Kentucky. I want to say 2016. Patrick Jones. So we're at the Rotary Farm, and I'm sleeping like we're in cubicles. So we're in the same cubicle. He's on the bottom bunk. I'm on the top bunk. But I'm not directly over top him. I'm like the next bunk over, but I'm up top. So I used to reach down and, or reach over rather than talk to him. What's up, man? And at the Rotary Farm, they didn't call him Patrick. All the inmates referred to him as Chops. What's up, Chops? I'm quite sure you all can put two and two together and understand how they came up with the nickname of Chops. See, in prison, you're rarely called your real name. Every once in a while, what's up, Mike? What's up, Stan? what's up, Jay? But most of the time you got a nickname. People typically don't even know your real name. But because he had been all over the news and people understood who he was or whatever, they called him Chops. And Chops was a very, very funny dude, man. But he was a very intelligent dude. So he was one of those dudes that he would play his role as though he was slow because he didn't want anyone to jump on him. And he told a whole lot of fruity jokes. You know, he told a whole lot of zesty jokes. And if you're not sure what that means, Urban Dictionary, just look it up, because I don't want to offend nobody on there. So people really kind of took to Chops. But he would often have these emotional breakdowns. Like, he would just break down. He would call his mom. He couldn't reach his mom on the phone sometimes. Sometimes she would answer. Of course, he was never going to see his child again. That's a wrap. He didn't know where the child was at. And I'm sure that he dealt with the psychological things that was going on in his mind as far as the heinous act that he committed. He was on medication. So he would be cool one minute, then the next minute he wasn't, and he slept a whole lot. So Chops and I, we would often talk. And, you know, one night we were just sitting there, and there was a couple of us. It wasn't just me. Now I can tell this story because he didn't have an appeal in or anything of that nature because he pled guilty. So when you plead guilty, you give up your rights to an appeal, even though sometimes people do still appeal, like extenuating circumstances or something like that. Okay, I took this plea deal, but I didn't know this. You see what I'm saying? But that wasn't the case with old Chops. We would talk, and really seemed like he was a cool dude. And he just broke it down one night and told us exactly the story that I just gave you all was the exact same story that he told us. But the twist is the police wasn't buying that. The police said that he struck her with a blunt object. So he was saying that they were wrestling around or what have you, and she fell and hit her head. But they wasn't buying it. They said, no, that's not what happened. You struck her with something. They just never found whatever object that allegedly he struck her with. And he was telling us, and he was just like, man, I regret it, but I didn't know what to do. He was like, in my mind, she was already gone. So being that she was already gone, I don't know what to do. And he was just telling us how horrific the scene was, as far as, you know, you sawing somebody, you know, blood everywhere. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, man, if that was my daughter. So I kind of had mixed emotions as far as dealing with this dude, because, I mean, you know, that could have been my child. But I try not to judge people, because who am I to judge, man? He's going to meet the ultimate judge. We all are. So I try not to judge people. And we're locked down 23 hours a day. It's like 100 people in the dorm. So it's just one of those things to where you kind of, I'm not going to say that you can't avoid talking to people, because you can. But it's just like he's right there. He's funny. He's okay, we talk sometimes. But it was nothing that I ever condoned. Hell, if you ask me, he didn't get enough time. So then you had some individuals that they didn't really take the Chops like that. They took to him, don't get me wrong, but it was like they gave him a hard time. This one big dude, man. He was from Louisville. He was a young dude. He was probably 22 years old, loud, obnoxious. Thought he was tough. I don't know, maybe he was tough. I'm just saying that's the persona that he would constantly give. And we're just going to call him Big Dude, because I don't even really remember his name. And he would always mess with Chops. One particular time I remember Chops had been on the phone with his mother, and they were arguing back and forth, and he needed his mother to send him some money. And because I believe Chops was getting some form of a check on the streets. Well, all of that stops when you hit the penitentiary, but I believe that it had accumulated, and she was sending him money because, as I always talk about, you need money while you locked up, man. You got to buy a commissary, man. You got to buy deodorant. You got to buy soap. You got to buy these things. They give you the bare minimum. They don't give you deodorant. They give you soap, but it's terrible soap. Toothpaste is terrible. Shaving cream. You got to buy all that stuff. And so he was on the phone with his mother, and I guess the conversation wasn't going well, and he gets off the phone, and he's hysterical, man. Now you all can see in the thumbnail what he looks like. So visualize this individual kind of just, I can't take this no more. I can't take it. Like he's going crazy and he's crying. Crazy it may seem, man, I kind of feel sorry for old Chops, man. But I feel sorry for the young lady and her parents even more. But at this particular moment, I seen him, and I'm a compassionate individual. I understand that people make mistakes. I don't always understand, why a person did something, or, but it's not for me to understand. So I'm feeling sorry for Chops a little bit. I'm like, dang, man, this guy, man, what if he's not mentally all the way there? What if he really didn't know what he was doing? What if he really... So, all of these emotions are flowing through me or what have you. Pause, though. And so, a couple guys wasn't really feeling that skit. That's what they call it, a skit. That's a skit, man. That's a skit. That's not even real. You wasn't crying when you cut her legs off. You wasn't crying when you put her in that suitcase and threw her in the dumpster. You wasn't crying when you hit her with that hammer or whatever you hit her with. But now you want to be in the penitentiary, pull your big boy pants up, and do your time and quit crying. That's how a couple dudes, feel. That's how most people feel in the penitentiary. At the Rotary Farm, man, they throw everybody in with each other. So you may have a guy over here that's doing 3 or 4 years on some small charges, checks or DUIs or something like that. And then you got a guy over here that got double life. You got a guy over here that has 70 years. You got a guy over here that has 60 years. And some of these dudes you've seen on the news. You may not know them personally, but you know of them. You know of their story, of their situation. So everybody's not compassionate the way that I was. And, to hear that, it really, really puts things into perspective. Don't cry now, Chops. You wasn't crying when you cut that girl's legs and arms off. Wow. They really, really had a point. Now, like I said, Big Dude was the guy that stayed on Chop. A couple other people, they would laugh and joke with him. Then next thing you know, they're talking about him or whatever. And then they back to laughing and joking with him or whatever. So it was kind of like a back and forth sort of situation. But for the most part, most people like Chops in the dorm. Big Dude never let up off Chops, man. He would just talk bad. He would go over there and try to take his food. Chops always made sure that, like at the Rotary Farm, you don't have lockers. You have boxes. So you have they call it a foot locker. So, you take your box, whatever you can fit in it as far as your commissary or what have you, in your clothes, which you don't have much clothes because you can have t-shirts and boxers and socks. So everything has to be strategically placed in that box, unless you just a troll and you just throw all your stuff in there. But most people, okay, I got my boxes over here, I got my socks neatly folded right here, I got my food here, it was strategically placed, as I mentioned, to say the least. Chops always made sure that box was locked. I'm talking about, he checked that box, it seemed like 100 times a day. Anytime he went in it, if he had to go into the box and grab, he loved hot sauce. He would eat noodles, and he would just put gobs and gobs of hot sauce on his noodles. So if he had to go, okay, he goes into the box to grab a noodle, and then he walks to the microwave, which the microwave was probably 20 feet away, maybe 25 feet away from his bed. He would lock that box to where everybody else would just go in there and grab a noodle, throw it in the microwave, come right back. Not old Chops. He wasn't trusting a soul. Big Dude would come over sometimes, man, give me his. Just be trucking him, man. Be taking stuff. Now, typically in prison, that's not going to ride because the white guys, Big Dude was a black guy. Like I said, he was from Louisville. He was in a gang or whatever. He had a little clique. But the white guys is not going to typically allow that. Hold on, man. So they're going to step up. But being that the heinous crime that old Chops had committed, nobody was really rocking with him like that. See, in prison, the thing about it, man, if you do something to a child, an old lady, or an elderly person, I don't necessarily want to call anybody an old lady. So let's just rewind that. In prison, if you do something to an elderly person, a child, something of that nature, someone that has a hard time defending themselves, nobody's going to have love for you. Nobody's going to have any sort of compassion for you. And if they do, it's really not love. They're going to extort you. Okay, you got a lot of money, come with us. But you come with us, you're going to hold the knives. You're going to do the dirty work. But we going to keep these goons off of you. But you're going to pay. Yeah, we need 100 a week. We need 50 a week. We need 25 a week. Whatever you got coming in, you're going to pay a hefty price. And if you don't, that's your ass, Mr. Postman. So what do you do? What do you do? And then sometimes they'll go to the blacks or they'll go to the Mexicans. Hey, dude don't want to get down with us. So look, this is what I need you all to do. We're going to kick y'all, whatever, some cigarettes, some, whatever. And I need y'all to harass this dude so that he has no choice but to come to us. Don't stomp him out. If y'all stomp him out, don't kill him, but harass him to where he feels as though he has no choice but to come to us for that protection. They'll work it out. They'll do business or whatever. The same individual that said no at first is damn near begging. Now the price just went up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Dirty game in prison, man. It's a dog-eat-dog world. But nevertheless, old Chops, man, he was just there by himself, man. It seemed as though he was there by himself. Nobody's there to protect him or help him. But again, nobody really laid hands on him. It was just more verbal. Well, give me this, man. You know what I'm saying? Give me this pack of cookies. Well, what? What's up then? What you gonna do? Say something. And that's how it often ended. Chops got tired of that. One night I woke up, and Chops would always sleep a lot, but he would have nightmares, and he would toss and turn in his sleep. Again, I'm on the top bunk. He's on the bottom bunk. But I'm not directly over top of him. I'm kind of, I'm at least, my bunk is probably 5 feet away, 6 feet away. But me being on the top bunk, I'm able to look down and see him. And he's tossing and turning, and I would see this, and he wouldn't even realize it. Because I would tell him, and he'd be like, oh, can he talk like this? Oh, man, I didn't even know I was really tossing and turning like that. Like, yeah, Chops, man. Was you having a nightmare? Oh, wow. I didn't even know that I was tossing and turning. That's the way that he talked. One night I wake up. In prison, you can buy sodas. So, like, he would always buy, like, Mountain Dews and Pepsis and stuff like that. So I wake up one night, and I see him, and he's kind of like, it's a real can. They don't sell, like, well, I'm not going to say they don't sell the bottles, but they would sell the cans. I don't know why, because you could take the top off of the can and use it as a weapon. Also, they would sell, like, say you buy some chili, Jack Mac. It's in an actual can. So you take the top off the can and you use that as your cutter, because you can't have a knife. So like when you cutting up whatever food that you're preparing for yourself, summer sausages or hot dogs or I don't know, burgers, and you're grinding it up to make perhaps a meatloaf or some chili or spaghetti or something like that, you use that top of that can to cut it up with. I look over there and he's twisting the can around and he's trying to make it as sharp as he can. This is late too. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, oftentimes at the Rotary Farm, you're up late because once you've been there for a while, maybe 30, 45 days, your name could be called at any time to get sent to the prison wherever you're going to be sent to. And they always come and get you at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. You're all from Kentucky. You've been to the Rotary Farm. You know how that works. So you might just be up late, hoping and praying that your name is called. So I look over and Chops, like I said, he's grinding up his can, man. What are you doing, Chops? I'm sick of this dude, man. I'm sick of big dude, man. I'm sick of him. He keeps picking with me. He keeps messing with me. I done told him, leave me alone, and he just keeps, and he's crying, and he's like, and he just won't stop messing with me. I talk him off the ledge. Chops, I understand, man, but you don't want to catch no more time. I don't care about no more time, man. I already got 30 years. I got to do all of that 30 years. I'm probably not even going to make it through this 30 years. I'm probably going to go to prison and get raped, and people are just going to take my, what they shouldn't be doing, but what they often do in prison. That was his mentality. That's how he really felt. Once he got to prison, he was going to get raped. So he just really had a I don't care mentality, and he's like, I'm just sick of this dude. He keeps taking my stuff. He keeps talking crazy about me. And they're laughing at me, and I just can't take it no more. Chops, calm down, bro. Calm down, man. Just chill out, bro. Just chill out, man. You know what I'm saying? I understand that dude is, but there's a better way. Understand that this rotary farm is temporary. He, at any given day, he can get sent off to wherever he's going to go. You can get sent off to wherever you're going to go, or what have you. And just chill, man. I knew I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, because he was still waiting on, like, a couple, he was waiting on something. I don't know if it was another medical evaluation, but he knew that, see, in the prison system, if you're going behind that wall, behind that fence, you might be at the rotary farm 5, 6, 7 months. Opposed if you go into a lower level camp or a jail. Because, yeah, even though you're a felon and a state inmate, they could still send you to a jail. You might not be there number 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. Chops figured he was going to be there for a while. And he was just tired of it, man. He was sick and tired. That particular night, man, I saved Big Dude. Chops went on and took his cans. He had cut himself or whatever. Not intentionally, but just like he was twisting the can up. He was trying to make that can as sharp as he could possibly get it, because he was going to deal with Big Dude while Big Dude was asleep. Penitentiary shit, man. Stay out of the joint. Type of stuff that really goes on in the penitentiary, man. Dog eat dog, as I've often said. About a week later, same thing continues to happen. So from the course of the night where I talked him off the ledge, and 6, 7 days later, Big Dude just would not leave Chops alone. Now, I couldn't say nothing to Big Dude. Big Dude had goons with him. Big Dude was a young dude. Big Dude was the dude that I heard say, an older dude tried to tell him something, maybe about a 50-year-old. He told Big Dude, or Big Dude told him rather, OG, I'm going to tell you one time and one time only. I don't respect my elders, so mind your business. See, that's the difference, because back in the day when I first started going to prison, the younger dudes would listen to the older dudes. You right, OG. I'm trying to get home to my family. Now, man, I don't give a fuck about going home. Excuse my French, but that's what they say. But they just talking, because they really do. They really do. I don't respect my elders. So if you don't want to be next, mind your business. Now, they're not going to say it to everybody, to every OG, but they will say it to some that they genuinely don't respect. Okay, cool. Same scenario happened. Because I would always be up late anyway. I stayed up late. Chops is twisting that can about a week later. What's up, Chops, man? No. Tonight's the night. I'm not taking no more. I'm not taking this no more. Hey, there's nothing that I can do. I done seen dude continuously, pick with Chops and come and take his stuff and grab his cookies and grab his sodas and his noodles or whatever. And, I've seen him come and grab Chops' noodles and smash them or throw them in the garbage can. What can I do? I'm not the savior. I'm trying to make it home myself. He goes over to Big Dude's rack. Big Dude was on the bottom. Now, when I say Big Dude, like I said, he was about 22. Big Dude was, had to be about 300 pounds, but he was like an agile dude. I don't even know if he was 300, but he was probably 5'10", 5'11". They say that I love to say 5'11" on here. I guess that's just the average size of a dude. Pause, though. Double pause that. Matter of fact, let me just take that all the way back. That's the average height of a man. So, but he was very good in basketball, man. Everybody loved him. Like I said, he had a clique around him or whatever. He was loud, obnoxious. He let the world know he was from Louisville, Kentucky, and all. But he was well liked. He's asleep. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Chops is wide awake. He got vengeance in his eyes. He got that look. I'm not taking it no more. He got 2 Mountain Dew cans. They didn't twist it. So when you twist the Mountain Dew cans and they come unraveled, guess what? Cans is sharp. I'm the only one that really knows what's going to happen. But I don't know what to do. When am I supposed to jump out my rack? Help! Big dude! Nah, man. In prison, man, you see no evil. You hear no evil. You mind your business. Chop grabbed them cans. Went over to big dude. Just start swinging. Big dude had a cover over him. So, actually had a sheet over top of him. He didn't have the actual prison blanket. He had a sheet over top of him. Of course, you're going to, in the middle of the night, you don't know what's going on. You jump up and you trying to cover yourself and see what's going on. Chops is just hacking away. Cut big dude's arms all up. I don't think that he actually hit anything but his arms. But he really did some damage on his arms. Police seen what was going on because they have cameras. Police seen what was going on. They came in deep, 15, 20 deep. They grabbed Chops, rough him up a little bit, take him on out, cuff him, take him out. They grab big dude. He's bleeding everywhere. His blood all on the bed and on the floor, and everybody's jumping up, seeing what was going on. You hear a whole bunch of screaming, and he, like I said, he's trying to cover up. And like I said, he's a big dude, so when Chops is swinging away at him, Chops is cutting himself as well. He got cut a couple times with the can, but yet he's slicing big dude on his arms, man. They took him out of there. I never seen big dude again. I never seen Chops again. Actually, I take that back. I did see big dude again. But when they took him to medical, he ended up having to go to the hospital, like the outside hospital. So I ended up seeing big dude again, probably a couple weeks like that, and he's all bandaged up, but they didn't put him back in our dorm. They put him in another dorm. Chops was in the hole. Last time I seen Chops, man. So it was very, very interesting to me and ironic that this individual Chops that I'm speaking of, Patrick Jones rather, and I'm looking his information up. Actually, not his information, but information from my friend, and I come across his profile picture, his prison picture. I'm like, it's Chops. I never will forget his face. I look him up. So Chops. Chops didn't play no games. I'm not sure if he got any additional time. I don't think he did, because when I looked at the his prison release date and his time, it's still the same. This was several years ago, so his case would been long over with by then. I'm thinking the big dude just didn't want to press charges or what have you, and Chops probably stayed in the hole for about a year, maybe 6 months, 9 months, whatever. But it didn't matter, because the whole 3 years that Chops was in the county jail, he was in the hole. Now, they call it the medical pod. That's the same thing. See, that's what they do in prison, or in jail, rather. They'll say, okay, you're not in the hole, but we're going to put you in a medical pod. Now, you got a couple, advantages as far as, I don't necessarily want to say advantages, but privileges, being in a medical pod opposed to being in the hole. Because you can get commissary, you can get visits, but you still only get out an hour a day. Who wants to be confined to a little bitty cell about the size of your bathroom? Some of your bathrooms are way bigger than the cell that I'm speaking of, for 23 hours a day. Nobody wants to do it. Put me in general population, man. Put me on the yard. Whatever happens after that happens, man. I'm not sitting in this hole all day long for my protection. Absolutely not. Put me on the yard, man. And, whatever happens again, simply happens, man. So like I said, man, you all that's interested in these type of stories or whatever, feel free to Google it. Patrick Jones, Lexington, Kentucky. And you'll see the exact same scenario and the exact same story that I told. Difference is I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. I don't know if he was telling me was accurate. I don't know if it wasn't accurate. But I feel as though it was accurate, because he had no reason to lie. But I feel for that young lady. I feel for the child that was involved. And it was just a very heinous, unnecessary thing to do. Watch who you're around, man. If you see that your kids you know, especially women, because women really, really have it bad these days, man. You got guys that are violent. You got guys that can't take no when you try to get their phone number. Ah, you think you all that? Bitch, you think you all that? And you got dudes that really, really are on that, man. Teach your daughter to protect herself from a young age. And when she's of age, man, she needs that protection. She needs to be going to that range, not to hurt anybody, not to, you know, try to cause harm upon anyone for no reason, but they need to be able to protect themselves, man, because chops, man, there's a lot of chops out here, man. I know dudes. I personally know dudes that say, hey, my woman ain't never leaving me. They got 2, 3, 4 kids together. And you think she gonna be walking around, or my kid's gonna be walking around the house with some dude in the house and it ain't me, and he got his boxers on and my kids? Nah. That'll never happen. If she ain't with me, she ain't never gonna be with nobody. And we all pretty much know what that means. Now, some people just say it because a pair of lips can and will say any and everything. But sadly, a lot of people mean it. Teach them to defend themselves, man, in case the worst of worse happens or occurs. Real Kens TV, man. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment, definitely share, subscribe to the channel. You know what I mean? If you're not already subscribed. And be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive.